Alright, so my lawyer emailed me that this new ruling has come out about sleeping in parks. In Grants Pass, Oregon, which I actually never visited. I did mark the Walmart on the map, but I looked on the Walmart and I saw that I never actually went to that one. I kind of drove around it. There's an issue about sleeping in the park. I've stopped at a lot of towns and cities in Oregon, and they certainly have sizable homeless populations in every city. So there's a lot of tension with overnight sleeping in the parks. And somebody, an organization that represents the poor, the homeless people, took the case all the way to the Supreme Court to make a national ruling about getting kicked out of parks at night. And the Supreme Court is in favor of kicking people out. But that wasn't exactly how it was decided, though. The way it sounds, they said that that the argument isn't about being cruel to people who are in the parks at night, arresting them and kicking them out, because it really is, it's cruel to wake somebody up at night and tell them to find somewhere else to go. But they said that the way the argument was structured, it doesn't fall under the cruelty, the Article 8 of the Constitution. The argument was about being labeled under a particular previous ruling about the label of being poor and not having the resources to really choose wherever you want to sleep. So the argument was approached, I guess, in a unique way by the lawyers who brought it all the way to the Supreme Court. And it was debated in that unique way, and so there's no question about how to and maybe they can appeal it in a different way again later, but just how they structured their argument was unique for homeless. I mean, it doesn't exactly sound like they're just picking on homeless, but it sounds to me like the Supreme Court is just passing the buck, passing the blame around. They're not taking full responsibility of cops, for the cities kicking the homeless out based on a label. They say that label comes from other ways. Blame the source of that label. Okay, what is causing the homeless to be poor? Okay, blame that. Don't blame the end result of that, which is homeless people sleeping in those parks. It is pretty much saying homeless people don't have a right to sleep in the parks because they're poor. Okay, there's no entitlement to doing that. You can't, they don't want to give the homeless the power to say, look at this Supreme Court ruling saying that we can sleep in parks. No, the Supreme Court's not not taking that stand exactly, and that's, you know, based on the labeling issue. You gotta approach it in a different way based on what's causing the socioeconomic issues, and in a lot of ways it's you know, the way the prices are, the way the wages are, how those are decided. You gotta attack the reasons that are causing the income inequality. But I mean, still, that's income. It sounds like income. You know, if you had money, you wouldn't have fewer choices. The block of choices that you do have as a poor person is either in a park at night, sleep in a park at night, or the homeless shelter. And then the argument was about how if the homeless shelters are full, then where can a homeless person go? Where can a homeless person sleep if those homeless shelters are full? And it's not just about being full too. It's like, you know, I don't think the Supreme Court really understands how bad these homeless shelters are. They got poorly managed. I mean, when I tried sleeping in a homeless shelter in Boise, Idaho, I one night, and it was only a few nights. One night it was next to some guy who snored too loud, and the next night it was next to a guy who was busy with himself a lot. And then there was a schizophrenic just a few beds down who just lost his mind, who can lose his mind from moment to moment and lash out in weird ways out of frustration because of his voices. A lot of homeless people don't want to sleep in those homeless shelters, and it seems like that's what government wants to do is you know, make it like prison-like, lump everybody up into small places. There they can keep their eye on you, not spread out in like a park, and you know, have some peace. There's a lot of that trying to lump people together tightly, even if you got a little money too. You'll see that if they can afford a trailer park, they'll put the trailers really close together so you can hear your neighbors' conversations really easily. There's different levels of inequality, and you know, if you're so poor that you can't afford housing, you get the government wants you lumped together in the homeless shelters, sleeping on bunks like you're in a prison. But if you have a little bit of money, you're gonna face being grouped up tightly together with other people in the trailer parks and even some housing. It's just a way to keeping people tightly controlled by being able to watch them together. So this is a law that the Supreme Court has. I mean, they clearly are standing on the side of the cities. So the homeless people, we don't have the power to fall back on the law for our defense. We're still in a dogfight for sleep, and we're gonna be facing more restless nights because of this ruling, because the cities have become more empowered to give us a hard time, and look at how they give us a hard time. I see in some parks there could be parking like right alongside the park, and you could be going somewhere else, visiting somewhere else, but if you're parked right next to the park in your car, I've seen people get kicked out, before even the park is closed, because the cops will want to warn you, saying that it's getting close to closing time. You better not let us catch you here after hours in a parking area that's next to the park. Okay, so they can expand that jurisdiction of the park boundary and push it into the parking lot, which, if it's on the side of the road, which is next to the park, can be that parking area can be associated with the park, and they give you a hard time about that. And there's like in Seaside, Oregon, Grants Pass is maybe a couple 100 miles from Seaside, Oregon. In Grants Pass, in Seaside, Oregon, they have that issue of they got the law saying that you can't overnight park, or you can't sleep in your car during the daytime or nighttime. You're not allowed, and they'll give you a $700 fine. It's some kind of a car camping ordinance. So it's not just about sleeping in the parks, it's just about even being on the side of the road and laying in your car, and if your eyes are closed, they can give you a fine. And I dealt with that. I was in Seaside, and I stayed almost a month. I was sneaking around, trying to trying to relax there. And I got the cops who stopped at my car a couple of times, giving me a real hard time about what I was doing. So it's tough to be out in the public. How do people? You gotta deal with a lot of stress, and especially in one of your most vulnerable points in life, when you're sleeping. The stress of being woken up is hard on the heart. All right, being woken up at night is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy to deal with, and that's the way the government wants it. All right, that's what they're enforcing, because it works better in their favor to have a system set up where people can't just sleep where they want, because that would be going back to how the Native Americans were living, off the land, kind of in the public, just doing their own thing, not being obligated to do a lot of work to make a ton of money. It enforces a system of having laborers. If people can relax in public parks, they don't have to work as hard to get out of the shelter, to get out of the homeless housing, the homeless shelters. It takes. I think this law is a little designed to give encouragement to try to make money in a way. And I mean, yeah, you got to make money to pay those fines. If the city can't make money off of you through property tax, they can make money off of you through those fines by fining you for if they catch you sleeping in the park. So you gotta sneak around. You gotta be a little creative. Some places people could find a little homeless shelter, make a little homeless shelter underneath this overlook or in the woods. You don't just, you know, the Supreme Court has made their rulings so that it's a matter of where you're still having to sneak around. That's what's going on with this there. Or, you know, go take the opposite way and you know, create your own army. Find your own army to fight back. You either sneak around or create your own army to fight it back against the government. And the government is very confident that, you know, homeless people are not gonna to group up to form together an army that can repel the government from intruding on their lifestyles. So there's certain strength that the Supreme Court is considering as they make their rulings. They know they have the power, and they know how powerless the homeless people are. So they choose to favor the reaches of their power. I mean, why should they give up that power of control? So they could send the armies after you. I mean, that's what they did to the Native Americans, is send armies after them to break up their encampments on whatever lands they were on, largely government lands. Break up those encampments so they can't be so living their self-sufficiency style lifestyles. Self-sufficiency is just not good enough for the government. I'm gonna stop here.